Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi. Zevachim Daf Chaf Aleph. We begin 6 lines off the top of the Amud, actually 7 lines. Iboilu. So this is back to Kiddush Yodayim Raglayim, where the Kohen would wash his hands and feet in anticipation of the upcoming service in the Beis HaMikdash. Typically they would wash from the kiyur, as we're going to see later. It's not critical to take it from the kiyur. You can wash from any kli sharis, any holy vessel in the Beis HaMikdash. Now comes an interesting question. So instead of having the water come out of the kiyur and rinse him, what about immersing his hands inside the kiyur and washing them that way? Does that work? Iboilu. So the members of the Beis HaMedrash posed the following question: Ma'u lekadesh Yodav v'raglav bakir. May the Kohen Gadol, or any Kohen, immerse his hands and feet inside the kiyur to accomplish the kiddush. The pasuk says, "V'rachzu Aaron uvanav mimenu." Right? As Yudayim Esargleim, they'll wash from the kiyur. It's going to be poured on them from the kiyur. Mimenu amar achmana. And perhaps that tells you, as opposed to immersing inside. Or you can say, it doesn't really matter. I feel b'soichai. Yeah, typically you wash from it, but even if you immerse inside, perhaps it would work as well. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak, let me try to resolve this question from a brisa which we actually learned yesterday. Tashma, oisha taval b'mei ma'ara. So the brisa presents types of washes which are not really valid. One of which is oisha taval b'mei ma'ara. He immersed his hands in cave water, just a plain puddle in a mikveh. V'avad, and he went and did the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, avodah psula. His avodah is invalid. Well, that's because he used plain, mundane water. It wasn't holy water. Let's make an inference from here, a diuk. But suppose the water would be proper water. Apparently it would work. Even if he does a similar motion, he goes into the water instead of having the water pour on him, apparently it's okay, as long as it's not plain cave water, right? Apparently may kiyur, if in fact it's quality kiyur water, but in terms of his interaction with the water, it resembles the fellow who dipped into the mei ma'ara. Basically what we're saying is, if the act is the same, but the water is different, it would work. If Avad, then he proceeded and did the carbon, sure, great. Avadosek Shera. Apparently, immersion works, as long as it's the proper, water. Says the Gemara, no. Who's to say? Perhaps immersion never works. The Brisa was simply highlighting. Don't think. No. There was a purpose in the Brisa highlighting the story of the Mei Ma'ara. So although typically immersion doesn't work, but I would think, Mei Ma'ara, which means a valid mikveh of 40 sa'ah, perhaps that works regardless. You shouldn't argue and say, Kol gufay tetel b'hem. If a fellow who is completely tamei and immerses in a mikveh, he accomplishes purity. So I would think the mikveh is so powerful. Certainly, Yoda v'raglav, he immerses his hands and feet. Although it's not your standard kiddush, but immersion in a mikveh, you can't get better than that. Like Koshkan, of course it would work. And that's why the Brisa sought to highlight. You should know that even if it's a valid mikveh, it will not work. But it goes without saying that if you immerse your hands in just a plain, small vessel with water, of course, it wouldn't work. Perhaps. So there's no raya from this brisa one way or the other. So we leave it unresolved. Again, the question was, the pasuk says wash from the kiyur. What about inside? We're not really sure. Okay, now we shift back to the halacha of lina regarding the water of the kiyur. So we're speaking according to the Shita, who says that in fact lina will impact that water, which means to say if the water is stayed out at night, overnight until next morning, that water of the kiyar cannot be used any longer for the next day's kiddush. You have to exchange and get new water. And the question is, let's say the water was underground during daybreak. So underground means it was connected to the underground water system, in which case it becomes, connected, bottled to the general, water supply at large. So it's not considered kiyar water any longer at that point, and it's spared the lina, psul. So if it was underground at daybreak, but it was still outside overnight, so during nighttime it was sitting outside, and then they quickly put it down underground right before Alois HaShachar. So sure, it never really transitioned into the next day while outside, but it was out during the night. What happens then? Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Rabbi Yosef. So we have a machlekes. He says it depends what you want to use the water for. You see, during daytime in the Beis HaMikdash, they would engage in, primary acts of work, primary avodah, like dam, applying the dam on the mizbeach, kaimetz, burning the kaimetz on the mizbeach. These were considered avodas hamatirim. Matirim means the processes applied to a carbon which enable it to be consumed. So anything relating to the matirim, to the consumption aspect of the carbon, basically the critical aspects of the carbon, have to be done during daytime. Avodas dam, anything related to the dam, to the kaimetz, right? But there are some aspects of avodah that can be done at night as well, secondary aspects, which aren't really critical to the success of the carbon, like burning the fats, hekter chalav and beivarim, the parts of the carbon. As important as it is, it's not really critical. It doesn't really hold back the kashrus of the carbon if neglected. By the way, that's why we daven ma'ariv at night. So tefillas arvis corresponds to the hekter chalav and beivarim, which went on all night. So we clearly have two categories of service in the Beis HaMikdash: daytime service, primary avodas, and secondary avodas taking place at night. Says Rav Chiya bar Yosef, interesting. The water of the kiyar depends what you want to use it for. You're trying to use it for daytime avodah, then it can't be out at night. You have to quickly hide it before sundown and bring it up the next day after daybreak. Were it to be outside during nighttime, okay, at this point you can still use it, but you can only use it for nighttime work. But it becomes invalid to be used further for daytime work tomorrow. Mekir, nifsalan, becomes invalidated. Limatirin, if it is to prepare you for matirin, primary aspects of avodah, kimatirin, then it only works if it's outside during the time of matirin, during daytime. But if it's outside during nighttime, it becomes pasabalina. Because even being out a little bit into the night, which is already past the time that you can do matirin, the psulina kicks in. However, le'ivarim, ke'ivarim. The purpose is to wash yourself for nighttime work, for the limbs of the burning on the, that's ke'ivarim, then the water is still okay, as long as it's outside only during nighttime, and not past daybreak. So basically, the water corresponds to the avodah that's going to be done after having washed with that water. Avodas hamatirim, strictly daytime, and only strictly daytime water can work for that. Avodas ha'ivarim, which are nighttime activities, you can use nighttime water for that as well, as long as it doesn't, stay out into the next day. So that's the shita. Rav Chizda Amar, no, he takes a more lenient approach. He says, afal matirin, even if the purpose is for matirin, even if you're planning on doing the avodah of the dam, etc., ein nifsalan. So the water will not become invalidated ela b'amud hashachar, unless a stay is past daybreak, ke'ivarin, which is also the expiry time for the ivarim on the mizbeach. So basically, as long as there's some validity, some activity, some potential avoida at that time, the water as well will stay active, will stay kosher. Ein if solen, the only time it becomes puzzle is elav b'la shachar, kevar, unless the last past daybreak, which is also past the time to be makta deivar. However, if it's only out during nighttime and then quickly dunked on the ground before daybreak, that water can be brought up again the next day and be used for daytime work. Okay, so we have two shittas. Rechia bar Yosef says it's got to match up the avodah that you're doing with that wash. If you're washing for daytime work, it has to be daytime water only. Nighttime work can use even nighttime water. Rav Chizah says even for daytime work you can use nighttime water. Rabbi Yechon Amar, he seems, at least at this early stage in the Gemara, he seems to take a more strict approach. He says, if the water is out at any point during nighttime, it's pasul for anything, even for nighttime activity. So you have to wash during the day and then go and work at night. But you can't use nighttime water. Once it's been exposed to the nighttime element, it's pasul. Rabbi Yechon Amar kiyar, the kiyar with that water, kimish shakai, once they lowered it into the ground before sunset, shuv ein ma'aleyu, he would never bring it up again, even during nighttime, for nighttime work. Apparently what he's saying is, that nighttime water isn't even suitable for nighttime work, really? Rabbi Yechon himself, elsewhere, seems to tell us otherwise. You can use nighttime water for nighttime work. So Rabbi Asi quotes Rabbi Yechon, Mishmei Dilfa, kiyar shel shakai m'berev. So this is a kiyar which was not lower down before nightfall, meaning it's been out and it's now nighttime. So a kohen could go and rinse himself for nighttime work. Well, the next morning, Einai Mekadesh, and the next morning he can't use this water for daytime. If he wants to go do daytime work, he can use this water. So clearly, the problem is only for daytime work, but for nighttime work, it's okay, even though it's nighttime water. Says the Gemara, you're right. We misunderstood Rabbi Yechanan. My einai ma'aleyu namidika amar. When Rabbi Yechanan said, don't bring it up again, he meant to say like this: if you plan on using it for daytime work, don't bring it up during nighttime. Lavedas yaim. But of course, ava lavedas laila. If you're going to use it just for nighttime work, chazi, then it'll be okay even if it's out during the night. Which is exactly the first shita of Rav Chi bar Yosef. Nighttime water is good for nighttime work. Yach, if that's the case, if that's what he meant to say, Hainu Rav Chi bar Yosef, isn't he saying the same as Rav Chi bar Yosef? That nighttime is good for nighttime and daytime for daytime? Says the Gemara, you're right. Ike benayu gezeras shikua. The difference between Rabbi Yechon and the other shitas are like this. Truthfully, Rabbi Yechon really goes like Rav Chisda, that even nighttime water can be used for daytime work. But there's a concern. We don't want you to leave the water out during the night because you might just forget. And it might stay out past daybreak. And then it becomes pasul, according to all shittas. So as an extra precaution, Gezerah Shikua, they would dunk it in the ground. They would lower it underground. And that's Rabbi Yechanan. That's why he referred to Kiyar Shaloi Shikim Be'erev, a kiyar which was not lowered down. Which was not sent on the ground before nightfall, because typically they would do that. At the end of a day's work, everybody's going home, just put the kiyar away as an extra precaution. But technically speaking, even if they failed to do so, it would still be okay, as long as you hid it before daybreak. So according to this, Rabbi Yechon really goes like Rav Chisda, who's very lenient. Nighttime water, you can wash yourself and use it for the next day. As long as that water, as long as that water was in the ground before daybreak, right? So you can take it out the next morning and wash yourself for the next day, because that water is still fully valid, fully kosher. Now, in terms of a kohen who actually washed his hands during nighttime, can he go ahead and serve the next day? Well, that's a whole shiloh we had the other day, whether lina invalidates his wash. But in any case, certainly, if you lowered it, put it on the ground before daybreak, and took it out again the next day, certainly the water is fully kosher and fully suitable even for daytime work. Says the Gemara. So basically we're saying that according to Rabbi Yochanan, ideally, they would hide the water, they would lower the kiyar all night. But didn't Rabbi Yochanan tell us the other day that the kiyar was accessible even during nighttime? Apparently it was sitting out. Kiddush, Yodav, Trumas Hadeshin, the kohen at the end of the night would wash his hands to prepare for Trumas Hadeshin, which was the first avoida in the Beis Hamikdash on a daily basis. It was still dark outside, but it was considered the beginning of the next day's avodah. So he washed his hands for that purpose. L'machar. So the next morning, meaning after daybreak, ein tzarech l'kadosh. He need not rewash shekvar kiddush mitchilas avodah, because he had already washed at the end of the night, which was the beginning of the avodah, even though it's still pitch black, but it's already considered the beginning of the next day. Okay, what pertains to us is that apparently the water wasn't hiding anywhere. It was right there and accessible. And here Rabbi Yochanan tells us that there was a special directive to have the water hidden. Says the Gemara like this. Bishlayma l'Rava. So according to Rava's approach the other day in Daf Chav, to Maikim Lahi, Shimon, he learns that the halacha of the Trumas Hadeshin is going to Rabbi Shimon, who says that there's never an issue of lina regarding the kiddush and raglayim. There's no lina, so that's Rabbi Shimon's shita, and therefore there's no concern about the water being out, because in any case the water wouldn't become puzzle. Haka Rebbe, as opposed to our Rabbi Yochanan today, which is following shitas Rebbe, who says that in fact the concept of lina does apply to the water of the kiyar, and that explains why the kiyar had to be on the ground even starting prior to sunset. So that resolves this issue. We have two Rabbi Yochanans, different opinions, different shitas. But according to Abaye's approach yesterday, that the halach of Rabbi Yochanan regarding washing for Trumas Hadeshin followed even shitas Rebbe, and he explained over there it's close enough to the morning, no concern of lina. But the question still remains: how do we get a kiyar? It's on the ground. Kasha the Rebbe had the Rebbe. You have a contradiction between two halachis consistent with Rebbe. Ma'ish nahasam the mashakale. Why is it that over there, in the earlier statement of today, Rabbi Yochanan, clearly they would be mashakale, they would lower the kiyar on the ground. Whereas in the most recent statement regarding the fellow who was washing for Trumas Hadeshin, apparently the water was right out there and accessible. The answer is they did hide it. And they put it back up. They brought it back up. The masalakle, they dunked the kiyar on the ground. Sorry, the masalakle means they took it out of the ground. Well, the mashakale, then they put it back down. So truthfully, the kiyar was kept on the ground in hiding since prior to sunset, but then they took it out for a minute to wash and put it back down. Very good. Yachi. So that's the case that according to Rabbi Yochanan, if the water is out and exposed sometime during the night, it's still technically okay. So as an extra precaution, they would immerse it prior to nightfall. But technically, if it's outside sometime during the night, as long as it didn't pass through the next morning, it's still okay. So then Rabbi Yochanan said earlier that the kiyar, which was used right during nighttime, l'macha ein makadesh. So the next day he doesn't wash. We're assuming it means you can't use that water. Why? Amai, what's wrong with using the water? Just because it was out for a moment during the night, who cares? Ain't tzarach l'kaddish. It's just the opposite. It means to say you don't have to rewash. Because there's nothing wrong with his kiddush. So we're going like the shita that there's no lina on the kohen's washed hands. So if he washed during the night, he can just carry on and serve the next day as well. So you mean to say l'meimer del matir michsa chazi? You mean to say, according to Rabbi Yochanan, even water which had been out sometime during the night, they can still be used for daytime work, for daytime avodah, provided they were on the ground during daybreak. But being exposed to the nighttime element wouldn't invalidate them for daytime work. This is exactly what Rav Chizda said, who took the more lenient approach regarding lina, regarding the kir water. He says as long as you immersed it prior to sunrise, it's okay, even though it's out during nighttime. The question is, isn't Rabbi Yochanan saying the same exact shita as Rav Chizda? So what was he adding? The answer is ikubinai mitzvah shikua. Like we said before, there's one nuance of a difference here. Are we required to immerse the kir underwater during nighttime or even before sunset? Rabbi Yochanan says yes. Don't take your chances. If you leave it out, it might stay out past daybreak. Rav Chizda says it's okay. Just make sure you hide it before daybreak. Really? So according to Rav Chizda, there's no mitzvah of shikua, of having the kir immersed on the ground all night. Meis, we have a kash. Mishnah and Talmud speaks about the seder of the avodah in Beis Hamikdash. Lo yahiroim oisai. So the elder kahanim, his colleagues, wouldn't notice him. It was still dark. Lo yahiroim oisai. We're talking about the kohen who won the chance to go ahead and do trumas hadeshin. They wouldn't even hear him as he's walking until they hear that creaky pulley system. The wooden, pulley system, she'asab and cotton, which in cotton, as we learned yesterday, fashioned as a muchnin l'kir, this system for the kir. And when they would hear that creaky sound, they would say, just in time, let's get going. We have to go wash our hands and feet from the kir. Now, what sound was this? What kind of creakiness? My love, let's assume the masalka, because it was underground and he was pulling it up. Hamad Meshakale, clearly, they would immerse it all night. This is a raya against Rav Chizda, who says it wasn't necessary. Loi the Meshakale. Just the opposite, says the Gemara. The kir was out and accessible. He would go wash his hands. And when he was done, he would go ahead and put it back down. And we'll see in a minute, the point was to make that ruckus, to make that sound. It was like an alarm clock to wake everybody up. Says the Gemara, Ida Meshakale. Well, we're assuming there's no noise when you just, push it into the pit. It's like a swoosh. It's like just a light sound. Ida Meshakale. If that is all that he was doing, Mimashtama Kali, would there be a sound generated from it? Says the Gemara, the Meshakale Gilgala. He would use a pulley system to lower it down as well. There's another lashon, which is the same idea but a different word. The Meshakale b'chumrate would use this chain or whatever to immerse it, and the objective was to generate noise, to make a ruckus. That the koil will be heard, and the fellow kohanim would hear what's going on and come running, knowing it's time for avodas habayrit. Says the Gemara, we had a designated waker-upper. He was a fellow who would actually wake everybody up. That was his name. Gvini Kara, the announcer. He would call out, Imdu kohanim lavidaschem. Kohanim, get up. It's time to serve Hashem. Levim, l'chach, go to your stage to sing. Yisrael, hamadchem, to be present by the curtain. So we had a human alarm clock. Why do we need this whole pulley system and all this noise? Says the Gemara. Getting somebody out of bed is a hard job. You have to have a backup alarm system. They would make two types of hecker, two types of alarms to make it known that it's time to get up. You would hear either the kvini karas or the equipment sound of the kir, whichever you heard, that would get you up. The shama mehayasi. Whoever heard this one came running. The shama mehayasi. And likewise, the other ones who heard it from the other source. So it's always good to have another a backup alarm system to cover all your customers. Okay, so in any case, we spoke about washing from the kir. What about going into the kir? That's a question unresolved. Lina, regarding kir water, we have basically two shitas. Rav Chibar Yosef holds, nighttime water is kosher only for nighttime activity. If you want daytime activity, you have to have daytime water. But if it's out at night, it becomes possible for daytime activity, because it says, no, as long as you immersed it back before daybreak the next day, you can take it back again and use it for the next day's work. Rav Yechon adds another point, that as a matter of precaution, they would actually immerse it prior to sunset so that it's not out during the night and we don't risk running into the next morning when it becomes puzzle. And we learned about the alarm systems to get the Oivdei Hashem into their mode of Avodas Hashem. All the best to you and Atzlach.